Hi guys, it's Ryan from leprivatebanker.com. Just going to do a quick recap for crude oil today and what I saw in a day. So just quickly starting with the higher time frames, as we have some key sort of time changes here. And we're heading into a new month. We just had a new week started, and we also just finished the second quarter, and we're going into the third quarter of the year now. Boy, time goes fast here. Anyway, so this is what I'm looking at. So we're still sort of finding some support at the high of this current bracket and the wedge on crude oil. I mean, this is a monthly time filter, and what I was anticipating possibly to happen here, if we were going to continue to see higher prices, was a bit more of a rally into the end of this month, and we just didn't see that happen. So I mean, we have some clear excess on this high now, so we'll see what happens here. I mean, we can easily still obviously push up and take out last month's higher, but just some key sort of information coming in here regards there was sellers here, and we did close this month out with excess. So obviously going into the start of this month, this is some important context to look at. So it's funny how we just closed pretty much right on top of this trend line. I mean, I suppose it depends how you draw it, but regardless, we still closed inside of this bracket, and we closed inside of the wedge. So be pretty important pushing forward, keeping an eye on how this all progresses here. If we look at the weekly, we have pretty much seen a breakout of the wedge on the weekly time frame, and sort of is holding as overhead support here currently, but just see what happens here. I mean, the one time framing got taken out last week. I mean, we had this sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or took out the one time framing, and we started to one time frame again with this massive elongation. So 1, 2, 3, and then we took out the one time framing. So could be some, or just the market's telling us obviously that two-way trade balances come back into the market here, and start to maybe track this as a bracket at these highs. So just see how we trade here. I mean, we are finding support into the $105 a barrel here. I mean, we sort of tested it twice and found a buyer, and let's just see what happens here. I mean, if we continue to break down, then obviously we've got this clear bracket below us. Depends on how you want to draw it, but we've got this clear sort of small balance area here, and you've got obviously the larger time frame sort of bracket. It's more sort of visual on the monthly, but you can see here just balance, just obviously grinding higher. We see this sort of nice move up, and we're just seeing these sort of intermediate term brackets, and as balanced two-way trade come into the market. So I mean, we do have no excess at this high, and this high was made literally on the gap up into the open this last week. We literally just opened gap up, and we just sold all the way off back down. So I mean, this maybe suggested some market manipulation. I mean, we opened gap up off the Sunday open for no reason. There was sort of some news out, but it looks like some risk got taken off of the market here regards some profit taking from the larger time investors, possibly. I mean, this is just my theory behind it. I mean, there's no evidence or anything to this, just what I was seeing. I mean, if we look at quickly, say the weekly time frame, I mean, you can see we just opened gap up. I mean, the market closed at 106.63, and then the market opened on Sunday at 107.43. So there's quite a large gap there, and as soon as it opened, we see sell in, and then we see this really light volume spike back up, new high, and then we just see again light sell in. So it looks to me like there's just some possible manipulation. I don't know, but like, definitely some profit taking at these highs currently. But I mean, like I said, these two highs were both made in RTH. I mean, the highest price was so in the Globex ETH session, the highest price last week was actually 106.84 in the pit session. I mean, other than that, we didn't trade above that. We only just see selling in the market. So like I said, we've made a year high on the Globex session, and into this gap and this spike. So definitely need to come back up and clean these areas. I mean, it happened last year as well. We see that spike into the $110, $111 a barrel, and that was made in the Globex session, and that still has not been traded RTH pit. So some interesting sort of stuff going on at these highs last year and this year on crude oil. But again, on the weekly, some key sort of support here into the 105.7s, and I'm just going to update this because this is not updated today. Let me see if I can update it. 2 seconds. That's a bit better. I don't know why that didn't update in real time over today, but I have to have a look at that. But as I was saying, there's some key support into the 105s, and today we just see a spike down below that, and we see some key buying coming into the market today. So I mean, I'll go into this more now, but you can clearly see here that obviously the market is auctioning lower to find buyers here, and we did see a new sort of 3-week low or 2-week low in the market today. So I'll just go obviously back into this, but we said some key time changes like with the monthly, the quarterly. I've not got these bars actually on this session, on this template I have. All my high time frame stuff I have on a different section, but I'm just going to run through what I saw in day here. So on the overnight session, I mean, there was some sort of balance in the market. We just sort of traded in this range, lower than we've been trading. I mean, if we look at the 240-minute bars, I mean, this is where we were trading overnight. So you can see we're trading in the lower section of this current bracket, and there was this clear sort of excess here with regard to different trading ranges. You can also see this sort of small balance area on this time frame as well that I was talking about on the weekly. You can just see it's obviously in a bit more detail. I mean, we've got here and here are these trading ranges, but I was expecting a possible test today of the sort of 104.50s, but we just couldn't make it down there, and I'll go through that as well. So we opened this week in a bearish VWAP structure. We opened below value, so the first thing we did is we sort of sold off away from value. We found some support into the bracket lows, and then into the open we sort of popped back up and tested the last week's value area low. You can clearly see here it's absorption on the volume bars here, and then finally the market rolled over and we see the sell-off as the market auctioned lower. So just clear selling here, and this is where I start to establish my short from today. So if we zoom into the Globex session, I mean, you can clearly see here this is how we opened. We sold off. Going into the open, the market sort of ripped higher. We opened just on top of value, the market auctioned higher into that previous range, and then we see just 3-4 periods of just grind here. I mean, it did look at the time like buyers were trying to lock the sellers out of the of Friday's value area, but when we looked at the profile, it was clear that there was just a false sort of ledge coming into the market, and it just broke out in D. I mean, D was obviously holding sort of 105.55s, and then we finally see this breakdown lower, but again, we just opened inside of the previous RTH range. This is Globex, so we opened right inside of the RTH range. So off the open, we just see buyers come back into the previous day's value area. And if we do look at the current value tracking composites that we look at regards to change in the market, I mean, this is the current sort of 4 or 5 day since the high, but you can see that we basically just auctioned up to the value area low and the edge of this distribution, and then that's where the sellers were ready to sell the market down. So if we do merge this together now, I mean, we can clearly see that we have nice excess at this low now. We kind of come in to fill this open gap below us on the daily, but we just never filled it. I mean, let's have a look at the gap quickly. I'll just quickly draw it. So this was the gap. As you can see here, we just sort of traded into the gap today, but we couldn't fill it. So this gap is still open, which is interesting because this is such a visual reference into the 105.54, and I was expecting this to get filled, but we just couldn't. It couldn't get filled, and we see buyers just vacuum it back up to just below the current bracket that we've been tracking. So very interesting that this happened. But again, off the open today, we just opened at the lows of the extreme. We see buyers come back up to the fast time moving averages, and we see the sellers responsive, whacking it back down to the 20 moving average. So just a bit of visualization from that time frame. But again, when we was trading down here, I was looking for maybe a clear disconnect or responsive buyers. I mean, I did mention this in the chat room. I don't have the weekly TPOs up, but you can clearly see on the weekly that we were just we opened just on below last week's value on the TPOs. We auctioned down, and like I said, there was either going to be a clear disconnect and we were going to head towards this sort of 104 area, or we were going to see buyers responsive here and just polish off this lower of this distribution. So it'd be interesting to see how we start to open around these current levels on this this value area. I mean, we've clearly established value here in this area, and we're clearly accepting higher prices at the moment. So we'll just see how we continue to trade here. But from regards to intraday trading, obviously this is what I was looking at. I mean, I started to short this area, and I got nicely scaled, and we just sort of started to rotate below the initial balance low, and then we finally see this nice breakdown, and I got my targets filled into the. I was looking for 106.60s, but with what I've seen on the footprint and stuff, I just basically got everything scaled out into the 10 into basically just 70s, 65s. It weren't 65, this is into 70, sorry, into this third IB extension, and I just left one real small, just my last contract on the table, just to see what happened here, as we just see a potential real imbalance coming into the market. But I mean, we just balanced in I period. We just had nothing to do. There's clear absorption, and once we broke the one time frame in, I just got out. I mean, I basically got all my position off here down here anyway. I just wanted to see if we could maybe see a real meltdown. But I mean, buyers were obviously responsive here, and we see this clear responsive buy, and once the time frame got taken out into J&K, and we spiked all the way back up, and pretty much just polished off this distribution today. I mean, if we look at this distribution, we can clearly see some sort of ugly trade coming in up here, and before we sort of spiked down into the H period, I mean, I was looking at this sort of this profile, and I was just thinking, wow, I mean, we could easily just see two-way trade and balance, and just come in and feel some volume in here, but value eventually led price down, and we see this nice spike down and flush some sort of stops out of the market, and then we see the buyers responsive straight back into the mean, and just started to auction back into that previous day's value area. So real interesting price action today. And if we look at the monthly, 2 seconds. If we look at the monthly value area, I mean, you can see that we just spiked down into the monthly value. I mean, this is starting to look very flat now, so I wasn't really expecting this to hold as well as it did, and like I said, I was expecting a test of the 104.50s, and we just couldn't make it. We just crashed into this, and buyers were responsive and just took the market back up, and we just didn't fill in. You can see this clear excess here, and I mean, this is a concern for me pushing forward. I mean, I personally think we maybe need to come fill some volume in down here before we maybe auction higher, but obviously I'm just taking each day as it comes, using market generated information, and currently we do have clear sort of buying excess. I mean, we see this tested once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Obviously the 5th time we sort of broke down. Like I said, I was expecting a test of the 104.50s across multiple time frames. This is very visual, and we just couldn't see it, and the market spiked back up, and I mean, this 240 minute bar, I mean, when we close these 240 minute bars out sometimes like this, it's just clear directional conviction. But as I said, we spiked down. There's about 27 minutes left. I was looking, I think it's even less than that, and we were just hovering down here, and all of a sudden J came in and we just spiked higher, and we created some real excess on this bar. So you can clearly see we're still trading here. So depending on how we continue to trade here, we obviously just give us some more clues, but there's this sort of clear trend line that we was holding, and we've started to break this now. So we'll see if this breaks. Then obviously we're looking for a destination trade to the highs of 106. Is it 106.95s and the 107s? So obviously going into tomorrow and the rest of the week, and we've got 4th of July on Friday, so it's a short week anyway. This value area is going to be very important. I mean, are we going to see a test of the 106.57s and a destination trade to those, which will fill in this sort of volume area, or are we just going to see buyers just take it up and start to find bid and offer this market higher? I mean, we have opened inside of this month's value, so we do have a neutral structure on that time filter. But this quarter we've clearly opened in a bullish structure, and we've opened up above the value area. So I mean, we'll come back and maybe test the 104.50s, like I said, clean this area up, and put some volume in this gap, and then maybe push the market higher. We'll just have to see how this plays out pushing forward. In regards to yearly value, I mean, we started to hold the 1.5 standard deviation, and a punch back to fill in this volume. We'll come back to the development value area low into the 103.30. So it all does line up pretty perfect for a correction to the downside before we break higher if we do, and come up and clean these levels from last year. But like I said, I'm not trying to predict anything, just some ideas pushing forward. I mean, if we continue to hold the 1.5 standard deviation and continue to hold this trading range, then clearly we're still finding offer here and value here, and we might have to get a bit more aggressive to see a new year high. And I mean, on the back adjusted contract, we'll just have to play this by ear now. So yeah, that's just how I approach the day and what I'm seeing currently at the moment in this market. So obviously pushing forward could be pretty interesting, but very, very clear responsive buying here, completely changing the dynamics. I mean, if we continue to trade down here into the J&K period, then I was potentially looking for a gap down and some trade into this low volume node, but we just couldn't see that. And again, buyers were very aggressive into the close here, and you can clearly see they basically bought the whole of today's distribution. So interesting to see how we close out now, but I mean, regards market generated information, we clearly found responsive buyers here, and we clearly have excess at the lows of this current distribution. So this is some very, very important information at the minute pushing forward. And still we see a clear disconnect from here. This is very, very important trading range and value. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, and if you have any questions, please send me an email at contacts@theprivatebanker. Alternatively, if you are already on the forum and the online community, just shoot me a question on there. Take care, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Goodbye.